Borada, good morning. Welcome to Gentle Pilates. So, I, Sarah Tag, am live, but have realised that this date, the week off that I had was glorious, but has addled my brain. So, I didn't actually send any links out for this class. But what I'm going to do is send it out retrospectively. So, you may be viewing this recorded. Anyway, whatever happens, I am looking forward to a really, really lovely class today. Hopefully without sand under my feet, but we'll see. So if you're feeling a little bit stiff in the shoulders, in the back, in the hips, this is a lovely class just to get mobilized. So it's gentle Pilates. It's not a cardiovascular type class. It's not a stamina building class. It's all about core strength. It's about mobility of joints, flexibility, and also muscle strength. So it's very different. And there's a really nice emphasis on breathing, which brings in a bit of mindfulness. So what are we going to need today? I've got my mat on the floor. You can't really see it properly. I have got a towel to support my head and also a drink. And I've got a stretchy resistance band, which I probably won't use, so I'm not going to show it to you. I show it every time we do this class, and then I forget to use it. So the most important thing is yourself. We're going to do a standing warm-up. As you can see, I've got no shoes on. Generally, you do Pilates with no shoes on, but some of you may prefer socks. Just make sure you're not going to slip so that they're non-slip. And some may prefer light shoes. That's fine. Whatever works for you. We're just going to play around with this foot position a little bit till you find that position where your feet are comfortably hip width apart. While you're doing that, we're just going to do a few health and safety checks. Basically, are you feeling well? If you're not feeling well, please don't do this session, particularly if you've got a fever, particularly if you've got any other COVID symptoms. This is not your chance today. Just leave it till you're feeling better. Now, when you feel that those feet are comfortably hip width apart, we're just going to have a little look down, and we're just going to try and make sure those feet are as close to 12 o'clock as possible. So those big toes are pointing at 12. Some of you may feel you need to take them out a little bit, but try not to over-exaggerate it. And then once you've got those feet comfortably in the right position, we'll be able to sort of almost lengthen up through the legs, through this spine, all the way to the crown of the head. So imagine you've got a little bit of string in the crown of that head, and I'm just pulling it upwards, and you can feel that space opening up between each little segment of the spine. Now, if you're anything like me, that sort of does that. Okay, some of us do that, or we get really tense. So let's see if we can concentrate on this pelvis first. We want to find your neutral spine position. So imagine this bucket of water in the pelvis, and we're first of all just going to tip some water out of the front. Notice that exaggerated curve in the back. And then we're going to tip some water out to the back of the bucket by tilting this pelvic. Notice that slightly flattened back. So we're going to tip water out of the front and the back, okay, until we make little less tips, less water each time, till we come to that midpoint where you can imagine the water is totally flat, and you'll find a natural curve at the base of the spine. It's not exaggerated. This is our neutral spine. So I'm going to turn to face you now. So every time we talk neutral spine, you can make those tilting movements just to find that midpoint. Now just let those arms hang by your side. Let's open out this chest. So imagine that the space in the front of your shoulders is exactly the same distance as the space at the back of your shoulders. Okay, so it's that front of the collarbone and the back. You can just open up that chest. Just let those arms relax. Now you may be feeling a bit tense. So what we're going to do is breathe in, squeeze those shoulders up to the ears. And as you breathe out, holding that neutral spine, we're just going to let those shoulders relax. Good. Still keeping that chest open. That's the way. So we're going to take that breath in through the nose if you can. See if you can let a soft breath out through the mouth. It's almost an H sound. And while we're doing this little squeeze with the breathing concentration, we're going to look out onto the horizon, so straight ahead. So the alignment of this head and neck is really important when we're doing Pilates. We want this chin in line with the chest, in line with that pubic bone, in line with the belly button, that long line. Quite often we tend to do things and we might be looking at me while we're doing them. So have a little look, see what's going on, and then bring that head straight ahead. Good. So we're just going to take one more little squeeze, relax those shoulders, and then let's just shake these arms out, shake these feet out a little bit. Although we're trying to relax, it tends to be a little bit tense. And then we're going to take those feet a little bit further, and we're just going to take a little spine swing. So we're going to just let these hips go. You can see as the hips rotate, we're letting that opposite heel come away from the floor. Good. And then we're letting these arms go. So just be careful of the space around you. Don't let those arms swing wide if you're in a confined space. We don't want you sort of smacking your hands or your arm. Brilliant. And then we're going to bring it back in, bring those feet back to hip width apart. Just going to take a little shoulder warm up. Good. So I'm going to give you a wave. You give me a wave if you can. And only if you've got the space, see if you can make that wave a little bit bigger. So this is a really nice, gentle shoulder warm up. Only working within your range. So we're not looking to push into any pain. We're just keeping the circles smaller if you need to. That's great. Okay, and then we just let those arms come down, shake them out. Maybe just circle this ankle on one foot, circle it the other way, and we'll do the same. So if you need to hold on to something for balance, I think I might do. That's it, just a few little circles. And then again, back to that comfortable position. We're going to think about these core muscles. So we've got our alignment really as long and as comfortable as it can be. We've got that breathing, just thinking about breathing into the side of those lungs, breathing into the back of the lungs and that gentle push out through the mouth. Now we're going to think about that corset-like muscle that comes from the base of the ribs to the top of the pelvis. So imagine this is a muscle and it's a corset. And we're just going to do it up just a notch or two tighter. So it's not all the way, as tight as you can, just a couple of notches tighter. So you can just feel those muscles working, but it's not impossible to hold. Make sure as you're doing that, we don't exaggerate that spine. Do that in the effort. Hold that bucket of water, that flat water position. Okay, when you feel ready, we're going to see if we can start with some arm floats. And all we're going to do is lead with that thumb, gently rise that arm up, and then gently bring it back down. So we're moving from the shoulder. I'm going to show you from this position. So as this finger leads, we're not bending the elbow, we're sliding that shoulder blade down the back towards the bottom. And all the while, we've got that corset just a notch or two tighter. We're looking out onto the horizon. And as this arm raises, we're breathing out. As it comes back down, we're breathing in. Let's change arms. So practice using that breathing to control your movement. So as that arm comes back down, there's that breath in. Now you don't have to follow my movement. What you can do is just think about your own rhythms and allow your breathing to dictate your pace. So that's that breath out. Imagine you're breathing into those fingertips or breathing out into those fingertips, breathing in. So there's a sense of flow about your movement. There's a sense of grace. It's not very push and pull. It's all about flow. And then we're going to come back. We're going to see if we can bring these hands into that prayer position, slide those shoulder blades down that back. And as we twist away from center, there's that breath out and we're breathing into center. So keep that chin parallel to the floor. Keep breathing nice and gently. Keep those shoulders as relaxed as you can. If you find the shoulders tensing up, we may be trying to overdo the movement, trying to force it. Remember, we're warming up and we're looking for flow today. We're looking for grace. We're looking for flow. Almost circles, no beginning, no end. So as soon as we get to the end of the move, we're just gently bringing it back to the start. Now just let those arms relax. And we're going to see if we can lift your heels off the floor, not a huge distance, and back down. So imagine that puppet string in the crown of your head, and I'm just picking you up, and it's just lifting those heels gently off the floor. We've got that corset done up, a couple of notches tighter. Got that space nice and open between the ribs and the pelvis. The shoulders are relaxed. Chest is open, looking out onto that horizon. So we're just going to see if we can take a couple of more of these. You might find you can gradually increase the range, but only as far as you feel comfortable. Now, if your balance doesn't allow for this, try 1 foot at a time. Okay, like a little pedal. We're going to take one more of these up, and then we're going to bring those heels down. Now we're going to take the weight into your heels, and as if we were about to sit down, and we're going to come back up. So I'm going to show you from this angle. It's not a big movement. We're just warming up those legs. Good. So we're just literally, as if we were about to sit down, coming back up. Lovely. We're just going to take a couple more of these just to really get those legs warmed up. Make sure those heels stay firmly attached to the floor. Glue those heels, push them down into the ground as we come back up. And then we're going to take that little shoulder roll. Breathe in and breathe out. We're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. Now slide those shoulder blades down the back. Tighten that belt or do up that corset. Let's come into our side bends. So we're going to take a breath out. And as we roll back up, stacking that spine one segment at a time, starting at the bottom, finishing with that head on top of that neck. Good. See if you can keep that little orange between your chin and your chest. So imagine I put a satsuma there. And as we lift, that satsuma stays in place all the time. See if you can soften the shoulders. I'm going to take one more either side. And generally, but don't worry if you're not doing this, we're breathing out as we move away from center, breathing into return. Now let's see if we can open out this chest. This time we're going to breathe in, almost breathing into those armpits. And we're going to breathe out. Good. And we're going to take that breath. And watch out for over breathing. It can make you a little bit lightheaded. We're going to breathe in, and then we're going to see if we can reach up to the ceiling, stretch up through those legs, through those arms, and breathe out. So now we're going to take some arm floats, breathing in, and we're breathing out. Good. So we're leading with the thumb or the backs of the hands as we breathe in, and with that little finger as you breathe out. Lovely. Just take a roll of those shoulders. Relax those shoulders. Find that neutral spine. And we're just going to see if we can practice coming into our roll down. So it's a half roll down. We're going to just keep that chest nice and open, arms relaxed. Tighten that belt, do up that corset, drop that chin gently down towards the chest. And then we're going to lift that chin. So that's going to be the start of every movement. We're going to drop that chin first of all, and at the end of the moves, the chin is the last thing to raise, and we're looking straight ahead. So now with that corset done up a couple of notches, we're going to drop that chin to the chest, and then we're just going to lift this chest over an imaginary beach ball at your feet. Now you may want to bend your knees for this one, particularly if you've got a sore lower back or tight hamstrings. We're just going to lift that chest, and then we're going to let that head go, let the arms go, tighten that belt, and then see if you can stack that spine, roll back up through that spine. So imagine a set of building blocks, and your spine is it, and we're starting at the bottom, putting one on top of the other till we come all the way to the top, and then we're going to go again. So we're just going to warm up this lower back, warm up the spine, warm up the legs, breathing out. And as soon as you feel that sense of tension, you're going to stop, breathe in, and then come all the way back up. So keep that belt active. We're going to roll up through that spine, stacking each little segment, one at a time, and that shoulders relax, chin lifts, and we're going to do that a couple more times. So remember to lift this chest over this beach ball at your feet or a football. Good. We're just avoiding pushing that bottom backwards. This is great to get those glutes activated. Keep that head nice and relaxed. It's almost floppy. Arms floppy. Not doing anything. The work is being done in this trunk. And we're going to take one more. Good. Just breathing out, really relaxing into these movements. Breathing in to prepare, and then rolling all the way back up. Good. Just listening to your body, not pushing. And we're going to take a little roll of those shoulders. So we're going to do a standing balance around the dog before we come onto the mat. So if you're not sure of your balance, just have something you can stand nice and tall next to. And if you haven't got anything you can hold on to, we're just going to take it very easy. So with those feet hip width apart, tighten that belt or that corset, just a couple of notches, and we're going to lift one heel off the floor. And all we're going to do is focus on this fixed point in the distance. And only if you feel safe, we're going to lift that whole foot, and we're going to breathe in, we're going to breathe out. Just seeing if you can hold that balance. Just make sure that corset is being done up, just a couple of notches. And then when you're ready, you're going to bring that foot back down. You can just move the feet a little bit because they are static, and we'll do the same on the other side. So it helps to focus on that fixed point in the distance, tighten that belt, keep that nice long spine, and we're just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Remember, you can keep that toe down if you need it. Breathing in, breathing out. Try not to tense up your toes. Whoa, I'm going to have to bring my arms out and bring my foot down. Challenging. Now let's bring ourselves down onto the mat. So we can use that roll down, or you can literally come down onto your mat however you feel comfortable. We're going to bring ourselves into a 4-point kneeling position. So I'm going to move this camera angle so you can see my mat properly. And then we'll come down onto the mat. So I'm going to use the roll down today. Seeing as it's a beautiful day. And it just feels so nice, this movement. Just opening up that spine. Feeling that little lengthening in the backs of the legs, but it shouldn't feel painful. If it does, we're taking things too far. So we have to listen. So notice where those hands are. They're not too far forwards. Okay, you shouldn't be able to see really that whole of the inside of the elbow. So what we're doing is bring it directly underneath the shoulder. And again, we're going to look for that neutral spine. So if we tend to be like that, imagine you're a dog. Your tail's going to be sticking up to the ceiling. It's like a happy dog. And then if we've got that back rounded, it's a sad dog. The tail is between your legs. So see if you can do that happy, sad dog. It's that tilt of the pelvis. So it's this rocking of the pelvis here till you find that position when your tail is sticking straight out behind you and you're a neutral spine dog. Now draw those shoulders away from the ears. See if you can slide those shoulder blades down the back. Draw that chin to the back of the neck. So we're looking at this invisible line at the top of the fingertips all the time. And then we're going to tighten that belt. Now let's see if we can tilt the pelvis so that we're pushing that tail between the legs. Okay, so that's the pelvis movement for our cat stretch. But we're also going to gently drop that chin to the chest, draw that spine up to the ceiling, breathe out as we lengthen up and breathe in. So there's a few things going on here. Belt tightened, tilt of the pelvis, rounding that spine, dropping that chin to the chest, drawing those shoulders away from the ears. We're going to take 3 3 more of these. And now let's think about our breathing. So as we draw upwards, let's breathe out. And as we come back to neutral, breathe in. Now keep those arms nice and straight. We've not got a bend in the elbows. Breathe out. And then we're going to sit back onto those heels. Bring those elbows behind you. Just relax that head. So this is our nice, comfortable position. We've got that lovely stretch in the spine, just opening up each little segment. Shoulders are relaxed. And we're going to just breathe in and we're going to breathe out. So we're now going to bring those knees together and we're going to come over onto our bottoms and we're going to roll down onto that floor, ideally with those knees bent. As soon as you straighten out these legs, this back will arch backwards. So what we want to do is almost push that tail between the knees as we roll down. Now once we're there, let's find that neutral spine. Some of you will remember that clock face. So if my fingers are 6 o'clock on that clock face and the thumbs are at 12, we want them nice and evenly placed. There's that natural curve. We're not pressed into the mat, but we're not arched away from it. Knees, feet, hip width apart, shoulders relaxed. Okay, so let's see if we can start with that little pelvic tilt again. And this is going to be the start of our bridge. So while we're doing that, we're simply going to think about tilting that pelvis. So if you had that tail and it was lying on the floor straight ahead, we're going to see if we can push it between your knees. And as we do that, we're going to breathe out. We're also going to tighten that corset. Now I'm going to get you to think a little bit about your pelvic floor as well. So imagine that building with 3 floors. What we're going to do is almost draw this hammock-like muscle from the anus up towards the pubic bone to the first floor. And then we're going to see if we can draw it up to the 2nd floor and up to the 3rd floor. Now the 3rd floor is your maximum. We don't need to stay there. So we're going to come back to the 2nd, to the 1st. So when we talk about the elevator coming up to the 1st floor, we're engaging that pelvic floor. So let's do that now. Relax the shoulders and the shoulder blades. Engage that pelvic floor. So imagine you're walking into the sea and it's freezing cold. So we're just drawing up to that 1st floor, and then we're going to take that tilt and come into our bridge. So we're going to squeeze that bottom, peel that spine away from the mat, breathe in at the top, and then just one segment of that spine at a time, starting at the top, ending with the lowest. We're going to press each little segment of that spine down into the mat. So in time with your breathing, we're going to do about 8 of these, really squeezing through the bottom. You'll feel the hamstring muscles, the backs of the legs working. And we want you to really look at the ceiling. Don't look at me. Just press those heels down to the mat. Squeeze that bottom. Keep those knees pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Keep drawing those hip bones together. Keep those shoulders nice and relaxed. That's lovely, isn't it? So you can really feel that mobility, that movement in the spine. You can feel these core muscles working to keep the knees stable, to keep the hips stable. You can feel the backs of the legs and the bottom working. So if you wanted to work the backs of the legs a little bit more, you can take the feet further away from center, and you'll notice you feel it in the hamstrings. That always makes mine cramp up a little bit. And if you want to work your glutes a little bit more, you can bring your heels a little bit closer to the bottom. Good. So just keep those knees pointing up towards the ceiling. And remember that foot position is really important. If we've got those feet outward turned, we're starting to put pressure on the knees to come outwards and the hips, and we're not really getting what we want. So try and keep those feet parallel. Now we're going to come all the way back down, and then we're going to see if we can bring our knees one at a time into the chest, and we're just going to give them a little hug, maybe a little roll, breathing in and breathing out. And then we're going to do a little bit of abdominal work. So we're going to take one foot down and the other. Now make sure we got that neutral spine. We're going to take one hand over that corset area. So it's going to make sure that we're drawing that corset in all the time. We're going to take the other hand just underneath the back of that head, and we're going to engage that pelvic floor. We're going to engage that corset at the same time. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to see if we can lift your shoulder blades a fraction away from the mat, but draw in here. So draw that belly away from your hand, and then we're going to come all the way back down. So it's not a big full sit-up. It is literally just raising those shoulder blades a fraction from the mat. So we're going to aim for about 10. Don't worry if you can't do 10. We're going to breathe out as we just gently squeeze, breathe in to return. So imagine you're just gently, gently squeezing the ribs and the pelvis together, drawing that belly button away from the hand. Breathe in to return. So remember that Satsuma. Keep that little Satsuma between your chin and the chest. And we've just got this hand to support the back of the head, so we're not moving with the chin. So try and avoid that sort of movement. The head stays nicely in alignment. Good, just squeeze. It's a tiny movement, but strangely challenging. Good. Keep drawing that belly area away from that hand. And again. So I think we've got 2 more. If you've got a couple less or a couple more and you need to stop, that's absolutely fine. And then we're going to relax. Good. So you notice now I've replaced my hand with that little towel just to make sure I've got that lovely alignment, long neck. So I'm not sort of leaning backwards or leaning forwards like that. Now let's see if we can now work a different part of those core muscles. So we're going to just see if we can bring one leg in line with that hip. We're going to call it tabletop. So that shin, we could is parallel to the floor. We could place a glass of water on it. Now, if we've had any gynae issues or any surgery down here, whether it's sort of wherever it is, what I want you to do is stay with one leg in tabletop. If you feel comfortable with the challenge and we can maintain that neutral spine, you can bring 2 legs into tabletop. So I'm going to show you the movement with one leg, and I'm going to show you what it looks like with 2. So we're going to maintain this 90-degree angle at the knee. And imagine you're lying by a swimming pool and your mat is just close to the edge of the swimming pool. We're going to dip your toes in to check temperature, and bring it back up. So as we check the temperature, we're maintaining that neutral spine all the way down. The most challenging bit is when those toes dip the water, breathing into return. So it's nice and slow and controlled. Remember that flow we were talking about earlier? Breathing out and breathing in. So if we're in 2 legs tabletop, it's going to look like this. We're still just working off one leg. One leg is static, one leg is moving. Good. So we've got 3 more on this leg. We're doing roughly 8 on each side. So keep those shoulders nice and relaxed. Breathing out and breathing in. So just one more. Now, remember that corset. Breathing out, breathing in. And then we're going to see if we can do the same on the other side. So double leg, we're just going to switch legs. Single leg, we need to take the leg that was moving down, and again, we're going to start again, breathing out, breathing in. So if it helps, just take your hands onto that belly area. We can use that pelvic floor method of engaging the core muscles, or we can use the corset or the belt method. Doesn't matter how you do it, as long as we engage and we don't let that lower back move away from that neutral spine position. So that if in doubt, have that back closer to the mat. Good. Now, sometimes you might feel your hip clunking a little bit. If you do, just don't take that toe quite as far. Does that make sense? And of course, if it's double leg, we're just here. Okay. And then when you've done your 8 on that side, we're going to hug those knees in and we're going to roll like a ball. So we're just gently massaging that lower spine. Imagine you're a little beach ball and we're just rolling you up and down. And then we're just going to relax those legs down again. So I'm going to bring us into hip rolls. We're going to walk the heels together and the toes together and the knees together. And we're just going to engage this corset-like muscle. So relax those shoulders. Let those arms relax out to the side a little bit. And we're going to come into those hip rolls. So this movement of the knees is completely controlled by this corset-like muscle. So we're going to use that breathing. We're going to breathe out as the knees move away from center. We're going to breathe in to allow them to return. And you can allow that head to gently move in the opposite direction to the knees. So remember, this corset-like belt is controlling the movement. So it's a little bit like just a twist from top to toe, but keep those shoulder blades engaged with the mat. So keep the shoulders relaxed. Keep the shoulder blades melting down into the mat. I love this one. Really focus on that breathing. Breath out. Breath in. Notice where you're breathing to in those lungs. And then we're going to bring it back to center. Okay. Let's see if we can bring ourselves onto our side. And then we're going to lengthen out these legs and gradually bring yourself onto your front. So I'm going to see if we can do a little bit of work on that lower back. So we want to engage the glutes for this one. So we want to squeeze these glutes, but we also want to find that neutral spine. So you might need that towel underneath that forehead just to maintain that length of neck. Shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed by the side. Now, remember those little pelvic tilts. Remember that tail. Just see if you can get that tail so that it's laying straight behind you. Just, it's a long tail. It'll be just resting on that floor, somewhere around the knees. Nice and relaxed. And once we're there, we're going to imagine we're lying on this ice block. It's freezing cold. So we're going to draw in. We're going to draw up through that pelvic floor. Draw that belly button away from the mat to stop it freezing. Now keep those shoulders relaxed. And when you feel ready, we're going to squeeze that bottom, lift that chest, and then slowly back down with control. Good. So we're breathing out. So you'll feel the muscles in the back working. You'll feel the glutes having to activate. They're almost acting like a stabilizer or assisting that move. Keep those toes on the floor. So we're just drawing that belly button away from the mat. Try not to let that tummy push into the mat as you lift up. So we're breathing out. And again, that little satsumas between your chin and your chest. Our eyes are always looking down towards the mat, just looking where we left. Good. So we're breathing out. And we're breathing in. We're going to do 2 more. If you get a bit of cramp in those toes, you can just tuck them under. Keep drawing that tummy button away from that icy mat. And then we're going to come all the way back down. So just let that forehead relax. I've got my towel a little bit too much. Let that forehead relax. This time, let that bottom relax. Maintain that neutral spine. Engage those core muscles. And we're going to just lift the forearms away from the mat. We're going to squeeze the shoulder blades together, slowly lower down. So those elbows are not higher than the shoulders, but either level or slightly lower. Try not to have them into your side. See if you can get some daylight between your elbow and the body. So again, we're just going to squeeze. So this is what I call our swan dive squeeze. We're working the upper back muscles. So the forearms parallel to the floor, squeezing those shoulder blades together, slowly back down. And again.
Drawing that tummy button in, maintaining that neutral spine, tail straight out behind you. Good. Finding that flow. Same speed up, same speed down. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. So we're going to take one more of these. One more. Remember, if you need to stop earlier, or if you feel you need to do a few more, that is fine. Now we're going to see if we can bring ourselves up into that kneeling position. Neutral spine, lengthen through those arms, lift that chest, and then we're going to come into that cat stretch, and we're really going to push the palms of the hands down into the mat, really get that stretch through the whole of the back. And then we're going to see if we can just sit back onto those heels, into that child's pose, this time sliding those fingertips forward. So we're getting a lovely stretch through those shoulders. Relax, breathe in, and breathe out. See if you can do another breath in, another breath out. And then we're going to bring ourselves back into that kneeling position. Now, what we're going to try and do is hold this static position. We're going to do swimming legs in a kneeling position. Now, guys, if this doesn't suit you, you can do swimming legs in a prone position, okay? So, really similar principles. Neutral spine, engage that core, lengthen through the back of the neck, and then all we're going to do is we're going to imagine we've got a plate of peas, the base of our spine, and I don't want us to spill any. So we're just going to push this big toe as if we're pushing through wet sand, and then we're going to draw it back in. Don't spill my peas. Okay, so what tends to happen is we tend to sort of roll onto one side, or we sort of do this, or we do this. So hold that position. Then we're going to do the same on the other side. So we're just going to slide that big toe away, and then we're going to draw it back slowly through that wet sand. Keep those shoulders as relaxed as you can away from the ears. And again, breathing out. And we're breathing in. Now, if you're feeling comfortable and you want to up the challenge, we can actually push that big toe through that wet sand, squeeze through that bottom, lengthen that leg, just horizontal, bring it back down, slide that toe through the wet sand. And again. So you'll notice those arms having to work hard. Okay, so even though we're not doing any movement with the arms, they're having to hold this static position. Good. That's great, guys. Then we're going to bring it in, come back into that child's pose position, stretch out those arms. Lovely. So we're working the back and the glutes, but also that upper body and the core muscles. So from here, let's bring these hands back, and we're going to bring ourselves into a sitting position. So we're going to come just into a sitting position where you can sit nice and tall. So remember, you can use this towel if you tend to sit a little bit like this. Sometimes it's tight hip flexors, tight hamstrings. So what we can do is just raise that bottom a little bit by sitting on a towel, and then we can sit up nice and tall. So use that towel if you need it. I could probably do with it, to be honest with you. Now, we're just going to sit nice and tall, legs parallel, and I'm going to see if we can get that big beach ball again. I'm going to place it just on the thighs. I'm going to rest my hands over it, and then we're going to lift this chest over that beach ball. We're going to breathe out, and then as we breathe in, we're going to roll all the way back up, relax those shoulders. So I'm going to show you from this angle. So nice and tall, draw that tummy button in, see if you can lift that pelvic floor, breathe out, And we're going to breathe in, roll, stack that spine, one little segment at a time. Good, relax the shoulders. And engage those core muscles. Draw that lift up to the first floor. Breathe out. Remember that little satsuma between your chin and your chest. If you want to sort of increase that stretch on the backs of the thighs, you can draw those toes up to the ceiling. Engage, come all the way up. Relax the shoulders. And again, breathing out. And breathing in. And then we're going to come back up. We're going to see, come back, if we can take those legs into that straddle position. You can bend those knees if you prefer. And all we're going to do now is we're going to see if we can open out that chest. So notice the arms aren't up here, slightly below shoulder level, palms facing the floor. Now, draw up through that pelvic floor. We're going to pull this right arm and gently twist, come back to center. So it doesn't have to be a big movement. Relax those shoulders. And again, breathing out, we're going to breathe into center. We're going to breathe out. So all the movement coming from the waist, lovely. Breathing out, keeping that chin in line with that chest and in, good. So we're just going to take one more either side. So there's that breath in as we come to center, relax the shoulders, breath out, breath in. See if you can keep that nice relaxed movement with the shoulders, that flow. And then we're going to come all the way down. We're going to come into that straddle position, walk the feet together, and then we're going to push the feet this way, come onto your side, lengthen through that body, and we're going to stack those hips one on top of the other. Make sure those heels aren't behind your tailbone. And you can either use this towel on top of your arm or just use that arm to support your head. So just see if you can play around with that position till you find that stacked position. Now you might find you can take your arm onto your thigh like this. You may need, and I usually need, a bit of support. So again, we're going to engage. Imagine I've got to draw your belly away from the floor. So draw this belly so I can post my little piece of paper between your waist and the floor. And then we're going to take this leg, we're going to breathe out, we're going to float and control it back down. Good. So nice relaxed shoulder, breathe out. So we're using all these muscles to balance, and we're also using these thigh muscles, these glutes. Now, if you wanted to challenge your core muscles a little bit more, we can actually float this lower leg so we're balanced away from the floor and come into that float again. Breathing out and in. So that knee is facing forwards, that big toe is facing forwards. It's a sort of slightly different exercise if that toe turns outwards. Good. Breathing out and breathing in. So if you can balance. Lovely. So nice and flowing. Imagine you're a swan or a ballet dancer. Everything is flowing. Good. Now we're going to bring that leg to hip level. This is where I need a bit of support. What we're going to do now is squeeze that lower thigh to meet the top thigh and bring it back down. Now keep drawing in here. As you squeeze, make sure you draw those lower abdominals in, tighten that corset. Bring that pelvic floor in if you can. Just bring it up to the first floor. Breathing out and breathing in. Good. Breathing out and breathing in. Let's take one more of these, shall we? And then we're going to come all the way down, all the way down. And then we're just going to bend those knees. You can give the area a little rub. Let that knee rest over the top there if you need to. Excellent. And then our open door. Our open door, stretch and mobility for the chest and the upper body. So I'm going to bring this towel back. I'm going to pop it into my head and bring this hand, palm up on the lower hand, palm down on the top hand. Now just make sure those don't move a muscle. Stack the hips, and then we're going to breathe out, Follow that hand. And we're going to breathe in. So notice the arms aren't too high. So they're below my chest level. The hands are below chest. Arms are roughly level with that chest. And the hip, we're almost gently pushing the top hip forwards as we open to stop you rolling backwards. Good. So imagine I G-clamped your hips in place. Breathing out. So we feel that lovely stretch. So if you work behind a desk or at a computer, if you do a lot of driving, this is the most fabulous stretch. And then we're going to bring it all the way back. And then we're going to use that upper body strength to push ourselves up again. We're going to bring ourselves back to that seated position. I need to move back a little bit, and we're going to see if we can take that straddle position. So remember, you can do this with those knees bent. You can place your towel. Now, what we're going to try and do is we're going to combine that spine stretch with that spine twist. So we're basically going to lift this chest over this thigh and then roll back through this spine, come back to center, and lift that chest over the thigh. Now we can do it with the beach ball to start, and only if you feel comfortable opening shall we finish. So engage that pelvic floor, draw up to that first floor, bring that beach ball, and we're just going to gently lift that chest over the beach ball, which we're placing on your right thigh. Then we're going to roll up through that spine, come back to center, rotate, lift that chest over that beach ball. Good. Now, only if you feel comfortable are we going to open out. It's still about lifting that chest. Okay, don't worry about those arms for now. Just keep those shoulders nice and relaxed. It's about lifting that chest. And then we can think about maybe just looking towards that back arm as we lift. Good. Keep engaging that pelvic floor. Keep engaging that corset-like muscle. Let's do one more either side. Breathing out. Breathing in. That's lovely. Breathing out. Breathing in. And then we're going to bring these arms down, slide these legs back. Hip flexors. So let's change sides. So I'm going to put my towel this side, bend my knees, and then just bring ourselves into that nice long position. So if you wanted to float that lower leg straight away, be my guest. Okay, I'm in the wrong place there. So make sure those hips are stacked. Sometimes you think you're stacked and we're sort of there or there, and we're sort of balancing on your muscles. So see if we can get those hips one on top of the other. Now, I tend to be a little bit less stable on one side. I think it's this side, so we'll see. Yep. Engage that corset-like muscle. Good. Breathe out. Breathe in. I'm going to see if I can float this lower leg. Really engage those core muscles. Good. Breathing out. And remember that grace, that flow. That supporting shoulder needs to be as relaxed as possible. Try not to put too much tension through it. That's lovely. It's a nice flow. Breathe out and in. Good. Breathe out. Now I'm going to do one more of this top leg. And then I'm not going to bring it all the way down. I'm just going to leave that leg at hip level. Squeeze that lower leg up. Now, I always want to push my belly out to assist this movement. So draw it in. Remember, we're drawing in. We're engaging. We're trying basically to avoid you arching your back to assist the movement. We want those muscles to be working and that trunk to remain stable. Good. Relax that shoulder, Sarah Tag. Breathing out and in. Lovely. And we're going to take one more. And then we're going to lower that bottom leg, lower that top leg. Bend those knees. Again, you can just stretch out that area a little bit if you feel you need to. And then when you feel ready, we're just going to stack those hips again. Nice 90-degree angle at the knee. Neutral spine again. It's really tempting to arch your back in this position. Slide this hand underneath you. Replace it with a towel. Relax the shoulders. And everybody's favourite, well, it's my favourite. Breathing out. And breathing in. So really relaxing into this, guys. Breathing out. Keep those hips from rolling backwards. I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly, but this is what we tend to do. We tend to want to move with the pelvis, but we're going to keep that absolutely still. And it really brings in that lovely stretch all the way up. And then we're going to come all the way back. And in your own time, we're just going to bend those knees a little bit, let them separate, and bring yourself onto your back. Bring yourself onto your back. So we're going to do one more little abdominal exercise. Yes, we've got time. So what we're going to do is we're going to try that tabletop position. Now we're either going to take one leg into tabletop, and remember, if there's been any sort of surgical intervention, sort of whether it's gynecological, whether it's urinary, whether it's sort of bowels, then we need to be really careful about overdoing it in this area. So what we're going to do is just do up that corset and stay with a single leg tabletop. We can even do it just with those knees down. If you feel comfortable with that extra challenge, we're going to hold this static tabletop position. Now, let's see if we can relax the shoulders, float those arms up towards the ceiling, really engage through that pelvic floor, through that corset, and we're going to take some arm circles. So we're going to breathe out, and we're going to circle those arms back to the knees. Now, as those arms come overhead, the ribs want to pop up and the back wants to arch. So we're not going to let them. So remember that steel thread connecting the ribs and the pelvis. We're breathing out as we circle away from center. So it's basically the hardest part of the move. Now, if this is not challenging enough, we could just gently take those knees away from center. So we're just challenging a little bit more. Maintain that neutral spine. We're breathing out and we're breathing in. And of course, we're getting some lovely shoulder mobility. If you haven't got room, just take the arm floats instead. Breathing out, breathing in. Can anyone hear my shoulders clicking? Breathing in, and then we're going to hug those knees in. And again, we're going to roll like a ball. Only if you feel comfortable, we'll lift that chest, keep that little orange between your chin and your chest, and we can just roll as far as those shoulder blades. That's it. Good. And then we're just going to relax it down. Nice little mobilizing stretch. Now, let's finish off with some leg circles. So I've got my stretchy band. Woo-hoo, I'm going to use it. But if you've just got a towel, you can use that. But if you haven't got anything, you can just do it without any equipment at all. Because what we're going to do is we're just going to straighten one leg up. So this is all about flexibility and mobility of the hip. So we're going to put a pencil into that big toe. I'm going to hammer it in now. It's pain-free. Okay, so you're all right. Now, what we're going to do is draw some circles with this big toe. So the band can sort of assist. You can sort of help assist it, or we can actually work against the resistance of that band by holding it static. So we're going to breathe out and breathe in. Go away, dog. Apologies for that. So, someone's just arrived, obviously. We're just going to carry on with the circles, and then we're going to change direction. Now, if you wanted to make it more challenging, because remember, we've got to maintain this neutral spine, and I'm going to put that spirit level over your hip bone. So I want that red dot staying right in the middle between the hip bones, keeping that leg as straight as you can. And then when we've done just 5 one way, 5 the other way, I'm just going to flex that foot we're going to point that toe. So we're just going to flex and we're going to point. And then we're going to relax that band away. With that foot flex, we're going to take the outside ankle bone over that thigh. And we're just going to let this knee fall away from center. So we're going to get a nice little stretch of those hips. Now, some of you may find this is as far as you need to go. Okay, you're going to get that stretch. If you feel comfortable, we're just going to lift that knee towards the chest and feel that stretch intensify. Some of you might feel comfortable just placing a little pressure on the inside of that thigh. Good. Okay, and breathe out. So this is our piriformis stretch. And then we're going to release, and we're going to do our leg circles on the other side. Let's do that, shall we? And of course, if you need a drink at any point in this session, I'm going to get you to decide when you want to do it. I think this time I'll just do that little flexing and pointing first. Seems to help. Flex and point. Good. I'm not quite as stretchy in my hamstrings as I once was due to many ridiculous trampoline type injuries. Touch rugby, trying to keep up with the kids. They're too old for me to do that now. So we're just going to do those little circles. Brilliant. Do those little circles. And again, you can either keep that knee nice and steady. Watch what happens with that supporting knee though. So imagine you've got a little glass of water balanced on that knee and you're just trying to keep that knee nice and steady. Good. And then when we've done 5 one way, 5 the other, we're just going to flex and point. Remove that band, bring that ankle bone over that opposite thigh and just let that knee fall. And only if you feel comfortable, bringing this thigh in, breathing out. And I do like to just place my sort of forearm and just increase that stretch a little bit. Great. Keep that foot flexed with this one just to protect the knee joint. And then we're going to release and bring it down. Okay, my friends, we are coming up to the hour mark. So I'm going to let you bring those knees to the side, bring this arm over. We're going to see if we can bring ourselves into that hands and knees position. Let's just take a little cat stretch, just to stretch out that spine. Come back to neutral. And then we're going to walk our hands in. We're going to bring one knee up and we're going to slide this knee forwards. So when we do that and bring that chest over that front thigh, we're going to get a nice little stretch of this hip flexor here. So you can leave it there if you like. And if you want to increase the challenge, we're just going to see if we can engage those core muscles. You can push up off that supporting thigh, lift that chest. Now watch that you don't arch that back. Okay, so we're going to get that stretch here. If we want to increase that stretch, we're going to lift both arms up, draw in that belly button, gently twist towards that bent leg, that front leg, and then we're going to come back to center, relax it down, and then slide this foot back. So don't forget to breathe as we're doing this. So we're sliding that foot forwards. Good. And making sure those feet are hip width apart, not one behind the other. And then just supporting that lift if you need it. Try not to arch that back. So keep pushing the hip of that leg with stretching forwards. Good. And then we're going to breathe in. And only if you feel comfortable increasing that stretch, we're just going to gently draw towards, come back to center, bring it in, slide it back. And then let's just slide those hands forwards, come into that child's pose. Breathing out, breathing in. And then we're going to bring these hands down. So if you feel comfortable coming to standing with that roll up, we're just going to bring ourselves up, tuck those toes under, and then bring ourselves here. And I'm just going to look towards my knees, straighten through those legs just as much as I feel comfortable. Engage that corset and roll up through that spine, just like we did at the start. Oh, and I've lost you.
Here we go. So let's just see if I can change that angle again. Back to the room. And we should be standing nicely. Ponytails awry. Just find that lovely long spine that we started with. And take a breath in. Going to take a breath out. We're just going to see if we can reach over that shoulder. Just reach down that back. Okay. I'm going to take a little stretch for those shoulders, the back of the arms, and gently push that elbow to the ceiling. And then we're going to reach up. We're going to breathe in. And we're just going to breathe out. Breathe in to return. Slide that arm down. Take a little roll of the shoulders. Then we'll do the same on the other side. Sam Tag is back in the room. You disgraced us again. He doesn't look at all sorry. Now we're just supporting that stretch. Then we're going to breathe in. Just relax this shoulder. Breathe out. And then we're going to come back. Slide that shoulder down. And then we're going to take this breath in. And this time we're not worrying about breathing into the sides of the ribs or the back of the ribs. We're breathing all the way down. Filling that belly. Pushing all that air out. I'm going to take one more. And when you feel ready, you give those fingers a little wiggle, give those toes a little shake, roll the shoulders a little bit, and well done, a lovely session. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So I shall send the link to this session, but I can see a couple of you managed to find me. Well done. Forgot to send the link, didn't I? Well, not forget, but I was on holiday and forgot to do 2 weeks of links. So anyway, hope you have a great rest of the week. I shall send this so you can do it again if you like, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.